This happened when I was a teenager, many years ago. I was with my best friend Tony, and we were at my house. My parents were gone someplace, I don't remember where. Tony and I had been best friends for many years, and were like brothers. We liked to prank our friends a lot, and things like that. On this night that we were hanging out, Tony had the idea to prank phone call one of our friends. This was back before everybody had smartphones. Cell phones were around, but didn't have the capabilities that they do today. So we were going to call our friend Adam, and Tony had a whole joke that he was going to say to him. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was probably really stupid. So we dialed Adam's number on one of the home phones at my house. It rang a few times, and then who we thought was Adam picked up. Tony started going into his joke and wasn't stopping. After he had spoke for like a minute straight, the person on the other end spoke. It was a man, but not Adam. It sounded like an adult, and I think we were about 14. The guy was really mad. I don't recall exactly what he said, but he was asking us who was calling and what was wrong with us and things like that. When we realized that it wasn't Adam, we were both surprised and also embarrassed. Tony just hung up the phone when the guy was still talking. Then we had a good laugh about it, but we decided not to call Adam anymore. That was enough prank phone calls for us. Instead, we decided to play video games. Just moments after hanging up though, the phone started ringing. We did not have caller ID, so I answered it not knowing who was calling us, although I think we both had a feeling that it might be the guy who we had just accidentally dialed. I picked up the phone and answered. I heard the same guy speaking, and he still sounded angry. I hung up on him, and then he called again right after. This time though, we did not answer the phone. We started playing video games at that point, and over the next 30 minutes or so, the guy called back several more times. At least we assumed that it was him. But each time, we didn't answer and just let it ring. Then, finally, we didn't get any more calls. We continued to game until probably about an hour after the call. That's when there was a knock at the front door. I was confused when I heard it. I lived in a pretty typical neighborhood, but knocks on the door at night were very unusual. We were in my bedroom, and I left the room and walked out into the living room. I got over to the front door and looked out of the window. Some guy was standing there who I didn't know. He looked right at me as I was looking at him. I moved away from the door, and he knocked again. I went back to my room and told Tony that some guy was there. Then the phone rang again. We were both wondering if there was any possibility that it could be the same guy, so we answered the phone call this time. The man spoke, and he told us to come outside. When I heard that, I instantly hung up the phone again. Now the man must have been calling from his cell phone. He knocked on the door again, and we both went out into the living room. We heard him yell for us to come outside. The guy appeared to be in his 50s maybe, and was wearing a baseball cap and a jacket. That's all I remember about him. We didn't answer the door though. He stayed there for several more minutes before finally leaving. After that, Tony and I were just waiting for the phone to ring again, or for the guy to come back, but thankfully he never did. After that, we never prank phone called anybody else. I think the guy that we called must have had caller ID. He could have looked up our address by finding it in the phone book or something. I really don't know, but that's my best guess. It still creeps me out that he actually showed up at my house.